This is a call for vengeance. Welcome to today's show. As we head towards the weekend, we are going to hear more about this trucker convoy as it heads into Texas. Of course, the trucker convoy, this is government ops at its finest, right? The trucker convoy, they're patriots. They call themselves God's army. They take scripture to try to make it seem as if they're followers of God, to plant this seed in people's minds that Christians are dangerous. This is basic psyop, basic false flag in the works here. This is a basic government operation, of course, but they'll tell you that this is all naturally occurring. No, they won't tell you who's funding it, et cetera, et cetera. And they're heading towards the Texas border, and there's a lot of things that tie into this, a lot of bills that they're trying to pass about what they call and will call a paramilitary operation, or they will call this a militia. Okay, and those are words that we need to focus on here as we watch how this psyop plays out. Now, some of the articles out there are talking about how 700,000 people are heading to the border, while others who are filming this whole convoy heading down are saying it's way, way less. It's very embarrassing. It doesn't make a difference how many people have actually jumped on board or not. Now, people are becoming more aware, and they're seeing this stuff, and they're going, I'm not going to participate in a government operation, because what they want you to do is see the convoy. This is why it starts in California. Why would they just go right to Texas? They want you as a civilian to get in your truck or get in your car and follow the convoy and support the convoy, right? So it looks like more people are involved because the government's not going to be able to get 700,000 people. There are 700,000 government employees who are working this psyop, but they're not going to put them all down there at the same time. As most of us know, just like what they're showing us at the border is small isolated areas. They're trying to build it out in your mind to be bigger than what it really is. So they want this to be bigger than what they have, already planned out. They want you to jump on board and follow along because there's likely a false flag planned around it, especially with the wording of what we hear with peaceful protest, and they're going down there to pray, and these are, and then the prayer turns into what? Armed shoot-offs? I mean, we could all see the writing on the wall for a potential false flag here. It doesn't mean it'll necessarily happen. I'm not on the inside. I don't know. But this is a government operation, and this is happening. Like I just mentioned over on the website, I covered the Pennsylvania beheading, one of the fakest false flags you will ever see. I mean, you could just start by looking at the mugshots of these people, the duping delight. It's unbelievable. The government false flag, I mean, they must have a sense of humor. They have to be doing this by design, putting these false flags out there, making them so bad and poorly done. Like I was talking about on the website with the Buffalo event at the grocery store. I mean, these events just get worse and worse and worse, and they know it. But they know that they have these suckers in the palm of their hands because they know, they're never going to believe that the government would be doing this, that they'd be staging these events because they don't believe in psychological manipulation, which I was just talking about with social engineering over in my podcast, which you haven't seen it yet, go listen to it. That we could break down social engineering together so you can have an understanding of how this works on your mind. Because all this stuff is an operation on your mind. False perception to hurt and manipulate you. You believe in manipulation. A lot of people out there believe their girlfriend, their boyfriend, somebody's manipulating, they manipulated me into doing this or thinking this, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the government's doing it to you on a day-to-day basis. Okay? So we have this convoy heading down. And is it a coincidence at the same exact time that in Congress they're trying to pass Bill H.R. 6981, as well as another bill, S3589. Okay, what is the fine reading of the bill, you ask? Well, the fine reading of the bill says the act may be cited as the Preventing Private Paramilitary Activity Act of 2024. So in other words, the government wants to be able to make sure that there's no citizens with guns getting together and trying to do anything on their own. So what they do is they create false flags, like things like this trucker convoy could potentially be. And they say, look, here comes all these people. They claim to be Christians. And that just adds Christians into background checks, by the way, if you're wondering. The more they lump Christians and conspiracy theorists into being these extremists, it's for background checks, because that's what they're going to add to gun background checks. Are they into dangerous conspiracies? Are they looking at this stuff online? Well, you can't get a gun, right? Because you're a dangerous threat while we allow criminals to run amok to destroy our infrastructure in the United States of America. So this bill, happening at the same time, this is a perfect example of how the government works. They want to put things in place to protect them from you and to take your rights away from ever rising up against what is about to be a total enslavement system from these absolute psychopaths, okay? So just like I mentioned on the website about the guy in Pennsylvania, right? He was talking about a revolution, doing it on YouTube. Does that sound like somebody you know? Now, I'm not talking about actually doing a revolution because it's too far gone at this point. They have too much power. But if we wake people up to it, something can be done. You could take their power away. The less you buy into their operations, the more power you remove from them. Okay? Rising up and doing something at this point with the type of military that they have and the technology they have against civilians, it's worthless. But if you could wake people up to it and to stop participating in their game, well, you start removing power from these people. So this bill, okay, has been proposed at the same time as the convoys, the same time as that story in Pennsylvania. And this is what it says. Earlier this month, Maryland Representative Jamie Raskin and Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey introduced a bill aimed at preventing private paramilitary activity within the U.S., which they say is response to the events of the 6th day of January. In a joint statement, the two argued that while all 50 states prohibit private paramilitary activity, these laws are far too often outdated, under-enforced, or ignored. Private military organizations pose a threat not only to national security, but they also present a public safety problem that extends beyond any single state. For example, private paramilitary actors like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, who of course are both government organizations. I mean, the fact that people think that they're not government organizations, like, oh, they went to jail, they're serving time. They're government agents. It's to create a psychological a psychological illusion, a psychosis in your mind. Okay, to lump people like us into these groups so they can start taking our rights away because we're really the only threat to these people. And by threat, they want, every time you hear the word threat, they want you to think it's some type of shoot, oh, they're going to go kill, oh, they're going to go do this stuff. How about information? The thing they care about most is taking away free speech. Okay, so this bill, they're talking about, well, there are things in place to prohibit private paramilitary. So in other words, private militias. But they're outdated. They're under-enforced. Right. So they want to put more things in place so they could listen to what you're saying and watching online to pretty much say, hey, can this person own a gun? Can this person be allowed to speak online? Because they're giving out rhetoric that's, the way this guy talks or sounds, it sounds like he's trying to start a militia. Oh, well, we'll take away his right to speak. We'll take away his YouTube channel, which ties into the guy in Pennsylvania, right? This is all psychological. The seed planting is being done through the repetition. Okay, and they have to create false flag after false flag after false flag to beat it into your head. Okay, to beat it into people's heads without them even realizing it. They have a new vision of what a terrorist is. Someone like me, they think. Oh, he raises his voice. Oh, why is he so angry? I'm not angry, I'm passionate. I mean, everybody in this country should be angry at what these psychopaths are doing, but you're putting your anger towards the wrong things. You're putting it towards other people in political power. Oh, putting it towards the LGBT. Oh, putting it towards activists here, environmentalists, etc. They're putting it towards, Trump supporters, MAGA, huh? And if they actually realize these people were working together to do this, they could put all their energy towards that. But that's what they're afraid of, right? And by energy, I mean, well, just remove them from office. Simple as that. Oh, but that's, in people's minds, that's terrorism. Oh, removing him from office. That would mean that you'd have to go touch his hand and put handcuffs on him. That's assault, right? You see how all this stuff works? How these psychopaths are protecting themselves? So this goes on to say there are currently no federal laws that address paramilitary activity or protect millions of Americans whose rights are threatened by this type of violent, anti-democratic intimidation. I mean, you hear the words of this stuff, right? I mean, protect millions of Americans, right? Because they want to build this up in the minds of Democratic voters who aren't really voters because your vote doesn't count, who think that they're voters, who think that they're free, that people in the other political party are dangerous. And if they, if you don't agree with them, they're going to come and they're going to kill you. And these people actually believe it because they're so weak-minded that they do, right? And conservatives on the flip side of that are so dumb that they think, that things like this, listen to all the people out there who are talking heads in the alt-right. They think that this convoy, this Texas thing is organic. They think that it's wonderful. They never talk, that's the common theme, right? Daily Wire, do you ever hear them talk about false flags and government operations? And psyops with they don't talk about it because that's what they are. They are a psychological operation. They're giving you fake, solutions to this stuff. Oh yeah, and it's innocent, and Democrats are crazy. Why can't they go down there and protest the border, right? Oh, they're God's army. Oh, okay, can't see a false flag happening here really soon. So HB 6981, or the Preventing Private Paramilitary Activity of 2024, was introduced on January 11th. How convenient! About a week or two ago, they started this convoy, right? And the main body of the bill seeks to prohibit private paramilitary organizations from 1, publicly patrol, drill, or engage in techniques capable of causing bodily injury or death. 2, interfere with, interrupt, or attempt to interfere with or interrupt government operations or a government proceeding. 3, interfere with or intimidate another person in that person's exercise of any right under the Constitution of the United States, which of course is all make-believe because we know that Christians, or what we're looking at as conservatives, at least how we're lumped in with them, are losing their rights every single day. And this is done by design, again, for what's coming with the civil war, which will be division. These people will be so fed up with the fact that their rights are being taken away that they will move into these conservative states and be sitting ducks for the government. But interfere and intimidate with a person's exercise of any right. None of us have any right. We don't have rights to free speech. I know for a fact, and we all know that I don't. Okay? And the majority of you don't either, because you tell me that you comment on people's videos, you get banned on Facebook. It's unbelievable. Number 4, assume the functions of a law enforcement officer, peace officer, or public official, whether or not acting under cool of law, and thereby assert authority or purport to assert authority over another person without the consent of that person. Okay? So this is actually tying into a potential revolution. Think about that. Assume the functions of a law enforcement officer, which would mean you're armed. A peace officer, which would mean, you're doing it in the name of peace, like this convoy, right? And saying, hey, I'm trying to start something here. We're trying to go against the government. We're all, armed, but we're marching peacefully. They want to prevent that too, okay? The right to assemble is what they really want to prevent. That's what that's saying. The right to assemble with one another, and for any of them to be armed at all, and the right to assemble based on what they don't agree with. So if you're assembling unarmed, and you're saying it's peaceful, but your ideology is that the left and right are both fake, well, they'll prevent that from happening. But if it's something to gaslight people and have it be a MAGA movement, of course they'll allow it. In fact, they'll fund it. That's what these people don't get. They talk about Soros. They talk about these guys funding. They fund both sides. They don't just fund the liberal side. They have to have control of both parties. And that's why they're doing it now, because they have control of both parties. People they cannot wrap their heads around it. These conservatives are compromised because they tickle their ears so much. Because of the stuff that Trump says, he says what you want to hear. He goes out there and acts like he's draining a swamp. Even though he was in power for 4 years and did nothing about draining the swamp. In fact, we lost our rights to free speech on the internet during his regime. And on top of that, he rolled out Operation Warp Speed, which, again, should have been the icing on the cake for people to wake up. But they don't. They don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe that they've been duped. Time to believe it. Just like we all realized we were duped through the school systems and all the lies of history that they told us. Okay? At some point, you need to grow up and realize that the Republican Party is duping you. Just like the Democratic Party isn't just duping their followers. They have them under a mass psychosis, so much so that those people are willingly castrating their own children. So that's how deep this is running. Very deep. So it goes on to say, it's important to note that the bill defines a paramilitary organization as, quote, any group of 3 or more persons associating under a command structure for the purpose of functioning in public or training to function in public as combat support, law enforcement, or security services unit, which means armed, which would mean exactly what potentially civilians should be and want to do against this government. But again, they're doing it in the name of the Republican Party. And again, they're doing these psyops like Texas, which could potentially be a false flag. I'm not guaranteeing it, but it could very potentially be. At least even if it's a minor shoot-off or standoff, a good peaceful event turns violent. I can already see the headlines coming, right? It goes on to say penalties would include a maximum of 1 year in prison for any violations that do not result in bodily injury and a maximum of 2 years for any activity that results in damage to property. Violations that result in bodily injury can carry a maximum sentence of 5 years, with violations that result in death carrying a maximum sentence of life in prison. So what this does, if you're saying, well, what does that actually do? It prevents something from actually happening. Because the more people that hear, when this gets passed, of course it will, the more people that hear this, they might be like, what is, they want this out in the open because they want you. They're saying, if you think about getting together with like-minded people, like, for example, maybe a YouTuber out there that used to have a large following. If you all think that you're going to get together and some of you are going to be armed, you're not even allowed to assemble together. Okay? And if you do assemble and you do protest and you are armed, we're going to arrest you. That's what this is saying. And this is what they need to do to continue to pass these types of laws to make it seem like it's in the best interest of the people is create false flags. And that's the whole purpose of them. Okay? Everyone sees the fault. They're like, maybe it's a gun grab. There's more to it. There's more to it. And the building up of what a terrorist is in this country is exactly what it's about. Because they're going to see us as threats. They tell everybody we're threats to democracy. It's not even a democracy. They can't even think past that. It's supposed to be a republic. Okay, it's really not it's what it is a system of total. It's a tyrannical government that's run by complete psychopaths. Okay, so it's not a democracy again. It's not a republic, but it was supposed to be a republic. And these people are so dumb they don't even remember the Pledge of Allegiance, right? To which the republic for which it stands. You don't hear them say republic anymore. Not since Barry Soetoro Obama stood up in Washington and said the end of the republic has never looked better, which I've used that clip many times over in the past. So this just goes on to say patrolling, some of these people, Raskin says patrol, he tweeted out, impeding law enforcement and storming the Capitol. And again, that's why the Capitol was a psyop. That false flag was to, they put the government agents in place, okay, so that they could start passing more of these bills. They used the Oath Keepers and these other ridiculously embarrassing groups. The guy dressed as the Viking, right? And of course, it makes people also want to side, younger people, they see a lot of the behavior of these fake Republicans, and it makes them automatically want to be Democrat, because they see the cool hip celebrities are Democrats, etc. And look at all these creepy, weird Republican conservatives. Look at the Christians and how they act. They act so strange and act so weird. So they heard them that way as well. So these are in place to prevent people like us from ever getting together. Now, we can look at the story again and keep an eye, again, on these things. Patrolling neighborhoods, okay? Gathering together more than 3 people. Those are things that we need to watch with this bill. And then we need to flip over and look at how they're claiming 700,000 people are going to turn out on February 3rd down in Texas to take our border back. Okay? Now, some reports out there that there's no chance that there's 700,000 people, which of course I would believe that myself, right? I don't think there's going to be 700,000 people there. But all they have to do is show you one footage of a group of people. It could be 200 people and tell you it's 700,000 and everybody believes it. That's how the news works. They lie and manipulate numbers, right? Often, people, they're like, hey, the statistics or the data, it's all make-believe. By hearing the data, it manipulates you. It's make-believe data, right? That's why, a lot of the stuff with the election, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But the data they tell you, it gives people the impression that one person's going to win versus the other. It's all make-believe. It's all psychological. Oh, the data shows. Oh, the stats show. Who's doing the stats? Huh? Who's coming up with the stats? Anyone want to tell us? Is it Casper the Friendly Ghost? I mean, who is it? Oh, we don't. Well, we did a consensus. We knocked on people's doors. All right. Nobody's ever met any of the people you've done a consensus with. So it's unbelievable. Keep an eye on the story for the reasons that I mentioned, okay? Because that bill is a very important bill, and they need more false flags to get Congress on board with it. But they might not even need to do one here because people are already so far under their thumb, but this would just give them more incentive to talk about militias, paramilitary. In other words, 3 or more people who are like-minded getting together to speak out against this government, which is completely taken over by globalists on both sides. I thank everyone for being here. Reminder, over on the website, I have that video about the beheading. And if you haven't seen or heard, I have my podcast. I've just released my 2nd episode. Definitely go over there and download it and subscribe to the podcast. Just sign up on Podbean or Spotify because you're going to get my updates every time I upload. You just automatically get notified. I'm not going to be here to constantly update you on when I have new episodes because we know I'm going to be removed and then we're going to lose touch with one another. So go over there. You can type in a call for an uprising. Excuse me, did I say that? Yeah. You can type that in, a call for an uprising. That's for you, the algorithm. Over in Spotify or Podbean, you can find it. Create an account for free and subscribe. At the very least, download the podcast if you want to listen to it. I have the links in the community tab. So go over there now in the community tab in your YouTube channel or YouTube feed, whatever you call it. And you can click on those links and listen. Make sure you download it. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you, as always, and your families.